You know that feeling? Like your brain is a browser with just way too many tabs open, and they're all playing different sounds at once? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into the science and the strategy behind how to break free from that powerful grip of overthinking.
All right, so first up, let's talk about the overthinking trap. Before we can even think about escaping it, we've got to understand what's actually going on inside our heads when we get stuck in that endless loop.
Sound familiar? I bet it does for a lot of us. This quote just perfectly captures that feeling, right? That mental noise. It's that constant nagging soundtrack of what-ifs that can feel, well, completely overwhelming and honestly just exhausting.
And there's actually a name for this whole experience. It's called rumination. I love this analogy of a skipping record, just stuck in the same upsetting groove over and over again. And here's the tricky part. It feels like you're problem solving, but you're not making any progress at all. You're just spinning your wheels.
And the research on this is super clear. This isn't just an unpleasant feeling. It's actively draining. Rumination literally makes us feel worse and just kills our motivation. So the big takeaway here is that this habit, it's not helping. In fact, it's seen as one of the central engines that can really drive depression.
Okay, let's get to our next section, because this is what I'd call the aha moment. For a lot of people, this is a total game changer. We're going to tackle a huge myth that keeps us trapped, the idea that our worry is completely uncontrollable. So check out this question. It comes from a field called Metacognitive Therapy, and it's a big one. What if worry isn't just some symptom that happens to you? What if, on some level, it's a strategy you're actively engaging in, even if it feels totally automatic?
Okay, so here is the key distinction, and this is so important. There's the trigger thought, that random what if that just pops into your head. That part, that's automatic. We can't really control that. But the worry process that comes after, that long cycle of trying to figure it out and analyze it from every angle, that is something we can control.
And here's proof. Just think about this for a second. Imagine you're deep in a worry spiral, right? And then suddenly, a work emergency blows up your phone, or your kid falls down and needs help. What do? You instantly drop the worry and you handle the situation. That right there, that's you demonstrating that you absolutely have control over the worry process when something more important needs your attention.
Okay, so that leads to the big question, right? If we can actually control it, why is it so ridiculously hard to stop? Well, that's what our next section is all about. Why we stay stuck.
The answer, it turns out, lies in something called meta-beliefs. And this is key. These aren't the worries themselves. No, these are your beliefs about worrying. And that, right there, is the real root of the problem.
So, on one hand, we have these positive beliefs about worry. We basically tell ourselves that worrying is useful. Things like, hey, if I worry about this, I'll be prepared, or dwelling on my past mistakes will help me not repeat them. We trick ourselves into thinking it's a productive tool. But then, on the other hand, we have these really powerful negative beliefs about worry. Things like, I have no control over this, or my worries are taking over my life, or even, I think I might lose my mind from all this worrying. And this creates the ultimate catch-22. We think we need to worry to be safe, but we also believe the worry itself is dangerous. It's no wonder we feel so completely stuck. But here's where the hope comes in. This is the really good news. Overthinking, it's not some permanent part of your personality. It's a learned habit. And you know what? Just like any other habit, biting your nails, endlessly scrolling on your phone, it can be unlearned and replaced with a new, much more helpful one.
All right, so how do we actually change the habit? That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, welcome to the toolkit. We're about to look at some super concrete, practical strategies you can use to start learning how to let these thoughts go. Our first tool comes from something called Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, or ACT for short. It's a skill called cognitive diffusion. Now, the goal here isn't to fight your thoughts or argue with them. It's all about learning to step back and just see them for what they are. They're just thoughts. They're like clouds passing in the sky. You can notice them without having to jump on them and obey every single one.
And what's so fascinating is that different therapies often land on really similar ideas. Metacognitive therapy, for instance, calls this same concept detached mindfulness. But the goal is exactly the same. Learn to treat those thoughts like background noise. You don't have to engage with them. You can just let them be there, and eventually they'll pass on their own.
Okay, here's a really powerful and practical way to practice this. It's called the worry postponement technique. So when a worry pops into your head, you don't fight it. You just acknowledge it. You can literally say, oh, hey, there's that worry again. And then you tell it, look, I'll give you my full attention later at 4:30 p.m. during my scheduled worry time. And then you just gently turn your attention back to whatever you were doing in the present moment.
And get this isn't just some nice-sounding idea. It actually works. There's research showing that this simple technique is really effective at lowering overall worry and anxiety. Why? Because it's a powerful exercise that proves to your brain again and again that you are in the driver's seat, not the worry. All right, let's move into our final section, because this is all about taking these internal skills we've been talking about and putting them into practice in your actual life. It's about acting on what matters.
Okay, this is so important to remember. The goal of all of this is not to get a perfectly silent, empty mind. I mean, that's just impossible. The real goal, the real prize, is to build a full, rich, meaningful life, even when those anxious thoughts and feelings decide to show up for the ride.
And this next question really gets to the heart of it all. It completely shifts your focus. See, instead of constantly asking, how do I get rid of this anxiety, you start asking a totally different question. What kind of life do I want to build, even with this anxiety here?
So ultimately, it all comes down to action. It's about swapping that old habit of avoidance for a new one, approach. It means taking small, deliberate, committed steps toward what actually matters to you. The kind of person you want to be, the work you want to do, the relationships you want to have.
And that brings us right here to our final parting thought. This is your call to action. Forget waiting to feel ready. Forget trying to figure everything out in your head first. Instead, just ask yourself this: what is one small step, just one, that you can take today, not to feel perfect, but simply to act on what truly matters to you?